Hello. Today we're going to talk about the functional brain systems. Up until this point, we've been talking about the brain based on like which structures are near each other. And as we notice, like even the same structures have different functions. But today we're going to kind of do the opposite and we're going to talk about some group of structures that aren't actually located near each other, but they have the same function. So it's like different parts of the brain that work together to accomplish the same function, and these are called the limbic system and the reticular formation. These are sometimes harder to understand, but they probably give us a more accurate view of how our brain works together to be able to accomplish functions. So, starting with the limbic system. The limbic system is our emotional brain or our feelings brain, and it's represented by everything highlighted in this kind of like pinkish orange color on the diagram. Anatomists don't all agree on what structures should be included in the limbic system, so you can find diagrams with different structures. I just went with the one that our book has. And to orient ourselves, in here, that circular thing must be the thalamus. Down here, below the thalamus, is the hypothalamus. This would be the pituitary gland. Down here, we have our brainstem. So the limbic system kind of forms a separation between the cerebral cortex and those inner structures, the diencephalon and the brainstem. I want to point out a couple important features of the limbic system. First is the amygdaloid body, and it is normally considered that kind of like branching part down there. So notice it's really close to the hypothalamus. And the amygdaloid body is responsible for how we process emotion, specifically like fear and anxiety. So the amygdaloid body is functioning when we are in a threatening situation and our body has to decide how to respond. I've read a story about a patient who had a stroke in their amygdaloid body, and then after that, like as a result of it being damaged, they could not recognize the facial expressions of like fear. So if they saw a person who looked really scared, they would just have no idea they were scared. So kind of crazy. So it's involved in how we recognize it and how we respond to it. Also, being located right next to the hypothalamus, a lot of the signals that are coming out of the amygdaloid body are relayed through the hypothalamus. And that might make sense because if you feel threatened, the hypothalamus is going to secrete like epinephrine to be able to do like the fight or flight response. Or if we're feeling pleasure, the hypothalamus can secrete other hormones that are associated with feelings of pleasure. So, closely related there. And then also the hippocampus, it is generally considered as like this kind of group of branching structures down here, and it functions in memory. Our emotions are tied with memory, and also like our sense of smell is tied with how we remember things. So the limbic system is sometimes considered like our reptilian brain, or it's like in the more primitive form of a brain, we would smell something and then make responses to it, and that has developed into like our emotional brain, but it's still really sensitive to smells. I'm going to recommend that you watch this video that it talks about how the hippocampus functions in memory. And then the other functional system we're going to talk about today is the reticular formation. The reticular formation is everything that's purple on this diagram. So it's a group of neurons that are in the brainstem right here. There's the purple. And then these purple arrows that are going out throughout the entire brain. All of that is the reticular formation. Its function is to basically keep us conscious. It consists of RAS, or reticular activating system. So it's this chain of neurons that are always sending signals to be able to keep the brain awake. If you remember from our Planet Soma case study, anesthesia works by basically blocking the signal so the reticular formation can't send signals to keep us awake. The reticular formation is also responsible for filtering out repetitive stimuli. So like right now, you are probably hearing my voice, using your eyes to look at the video, but let's kind of be aware of other things. Like now that I'm trying to think of it, I can also hear a fan blowing. I can see like a light in my classroom flickering. I can smell my coffee a little bit. I feel a little bit cold and I'm thinking about putting on my jacket. Like all of this sensory information is coming into my brain, but my reticular formation is filtering out the things that aren't important. Why is that? So that it can be on the lookout for new and possibly threatening sounds that we might need to be able to be aware of to save ourselves. Um, yeah, that's a wrap.